the element's cold, windy city. The breath is seen evaporating in the air from exhaustion. "Nikita, baby girl, you gotta keep that fire in check," Lakoatia admonished, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames that danced at the tips of the young girl's fingers. Nikita nodded solemnly, the gravity of her gift weighing heavy on her 8-year-old shoulders. Her eyes, a piercing shade of green, searched the creases of the old woman's face for guidance, for understanding. Their home, a sprawling, abandoned warehouse, had become a sanctuary of sorts. Its high ceilings and dusty windows offered a semblance of freedom from the prying eyes of the world outside. It was here that Nikita had first discovered her fiery gift, and here that Lakosia had taken her in, offering her warmth, protection, and a roof over her head. The concrete floor was their canvas, the metal beams their guardians as they practiced the art of control. The lessons were rigorous, pushing Nikita to the brink of her abilities. Each day she would sit cross-legged in the center of the warehouse, her light-colored shirt billowing in the chilly air, and focus. With a deep breath, she would coax the flames to life, feeling the heat dance across her skin. The air grew thick with the scent of burning embers as she would manipulate the fire into shapes and sizes, learning to harness its power without letting it consume her. Lakoatia, her eyes sharp despite her age, watched intently, her own hands moving in rhythmic patterns as she whispered ancient incantations, guiding Nikita's fiery creations. "Remember, baby," she'd say, "the fire listens to your heart, not your fear." Her words were a constant reminder to the young girl to keep her emotions in check, to channel her anger into strength and her fear into resolve. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the warehouse in a warm, fiery glow, Lakoatia told a story that sent a shiver down Nikita's spine. It was about the Oops, a shadowy organization that had been searching for her since her powers manifested. They were led by Nikita's Aunt Lucinia, a cold, calculating woman with a thirst for power that surpassed even the most insatiable of villains. "They want to use you, baby," Lakoatia warned, "to do things that ain't natural, to do things that ain't right." Nikita's eyes grew wide with fear as she listened to tales of her aunt's cruel experiments and her relentless pursuit of those with extraordinary abilities. Her heart raced as the fire within her grew stronger, the heat in the room spiking with each new detail. "But why?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lakoatia sighed heavily, the weight of her words etched into the lines of her face. "They're afraid of what they don't understand, baby. And fear makes people do terrible things." Her gaze drifted to the far corner of the warehouse, where a tattered blanket served as a door to a makeshift bedroom. It was here she had found refugees from the Oops, their eyes haunted by what they had seen, their bodies scarred by the unspeakable. Her story unfolded like a nightmare. The Oops had taken her in once, promising her a life of protection and purpose. They had studied her, poked and prodded, trying to understand the source of her unique abilities. But when she had failed to conform to their twisted ideals, they had turned on her, leaving her for dead in an alleyway. It was then that she had discovered her gift for healing, a power born from her desperate will to survive. She had stumbled upon the warehouse, a beacon of hope in a sea of despair, and it had become her mission to protect those like Nikita from a similar fate. Nikita's parents had been part of that world, born with gifts of their own. Her mother, a gentle soul with the power to manipulate water, had used her abilities to heal the sick and quench the thirst of the destitute. Her father, a fierce protector with the strength of the earth at his command, had stood as a shield for those who could not defend themselves. They had met in a world that feared them, yet they had loved fiercely and unconditionally, raising their daughter in the warm embrace of their combined elements. But fear and greed had torn them apart. The Oops had come for them in the dead of night, their cold, unyielding grip leaving nothing but a trail of ash and despair. Lakoatia had found Nikita, a terrified toddler, clutching a charred teddy bear amidst the wreckage of her former home. The old woman had recognized the spark of power within the child and knew that she could not be left to the mercy of the streets. The fire grew in intensity as Nikita's anger flared, her thoughts swirling with images of her lost parents and the faceless monsters that had taken them from her. "We can't hide forever," she said, her voice filled with a newfound determination. "I need to learn to fight." Lakusha nodded, her expression a mix of pride and sorrow. "With your power comes great control, baby," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But it also brings great responsibility." She took a deep, shaky breath, her chest rising and falling with the effort of holding back the memories of her own battles with the Oops. "We'll start your combat training tomorrow," she promised, patting the girl's shoulder with a gentle hand. But that night, as Nikita lay on her makeshift bed of cardboard and discarded blankets, she couldn't shake the images from her mind. Her thoughts raced with the horrors that Lakeisha had described, and her heart ached for the family she had lost. She clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of her gift build in her palms. The fire was a living, breathing entity, pulsing with the rhythm of her heart. It was a part of her, and she knew that she had to embrace it if she ever wanted to find peace. The next day, as the cold light of dawn painted the warehouse walls with a soft orange glow, Nikita and Lakeisha began their combat training. They started with the basics: punches, kicks, and the importance of balance. But as the hours stretched into days, and days into weeks, their training grew more intense. They worked on integrating Nikita's fiery abilities into her movements, turning her into a human inferno capable of both offense and defense. Lakeisha taught Nikita to throw fireballs, the size of small rocks, with precision and control. She had her dodge and weave through rings of fire, each one a testament to her growing mastery over her gift. The air was often thick with the smell of burnt rubber and scorched metal, a stark contrast to the chilly air outside. The echo of their footsteps and the crackling of the flames became a symphony of survival, each note a step closer to Nikita's ultimate goal: facing the Oops and rescuing the lost souls they had claimed. As their days grew more intense, so too did the nights. The whispers of the warehouse's forgotten past grew louder, and the shadows seemed to stretch further into their space. It was during one such night that they stumbled upon a new member of their makeshift family. His name was Ku, a runaway with a gift for speed that made him nothing short of a blur when he wanted to be. His wide eyes and skittish demeanor spoke volumes of his own encounters with the Oops. Ku's story was a heart-wrenching one. Born to a family who had rejected him for his gift, he had been shuffled from one foster home to another, never finding a place where he truly belonged. The Oops had found him, much like they had found Lakeisha, and had promised him a home and a family. But the embrace had been a lie. They had tried to harness his speed, pushing him beyond his limits until he had been nothing more than a weapon to be wielded. One night, unable to take the pain and the fear any longer, Ku had made his daring escape. He had run for hours, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum, until he had stumbled upon a girl named Ali, a fellow runaway with a gift of her own. Ali was a whiz with technology, her mind a conduit to the digital world. Her eyes glowed a soft blue whenever she focused her power, and she had an uncanny ability to make machines bend to her will. Together, the two of them had stumbled into an old, forgotten library, a treasure trove of knowledge that had somehow eluded the grasp of the Oops. It was here that they had discovered Kreia, a creature that looked like a pink dragon, but was something far more mystical. Kreia had the power to manipulate shadows, making herself invisible and moving with an elegant grace that belied the fierce beast within. Her eyes, a piercing shade of yellow, held a wisdom beyond her years, and her presence was a comforting warmth in the cold metal city. The five of them formed an unlikely bond, each one's gift complementing the other's. Nikita, the fiery protector; Lakeisha, the wise healer; Ku, the swift; and Ali, the technomancer and the creature of the shadows. Kreia became their silent sentinel, her fiery eyes never leaving the entrances of the warehouse, ever vigilant for any signs of the enemy. They called themselves the Elements, a nod to the very essence of their abilities. In the vast expanse of the warehouse, they honed their skills, turning the empty space into a fortress of steel and fire. Under LaQuacia's tutelage, Nikita grew stronger, her flames more precise, more powerful. She could now summon a fiery shield that could withstand blows and bullets alike, and her fireballs had grown to the size of basketballs.